Welcome to our video tutorial on the new functions as part of QuickRes version 10, which was published on the 8th of December 2023. We'll go ahead and get started, and we'll have a list of around 28 new functions to review during this video. The first are three major upgrades that occurred on the web app of QuickRes. The first is that programs can now have more than one program in a particular country. Previously, QuickRes only had one front-end interface per country and one segmented access per country in the back end. However, now you can actually add multiple programs and assign them to the same country, and there's some changes to the front-end interface for clients to navigate to the right program. I'll give you a little bit of details on that now. So on the back end, all of the settings that were applied for a particular country are now applied at the program level. You can see countries here. In this country record, it has very limited information: country name, the flag of the country, and whether you want to turn that on or off. Under programs, you now have all of the specific program settings for your program in that country. You'll be able to first assign this program to a particular country that is enabled on QuickRes, provide a name for your program, and define all the other settings in this page here. So what's unique about this is that when programs log in with their user ID, if they're an administrator at a project level or a program level, they'll be able to log in and just see their project and not see the information for other projects in their country. Also, all of the data elements on the system that can be added are assigned to a program now. So for instance, your locations, your tokens, your users, your clinics, they'll all be assigned to your program. And all the reservations that do come in will be assigned to the program as well. On the front end, if clients land on quickres.org without any token, they'll be asked to select a country in which to view services. And if in that country there are multiple programs enabled on QuickRes, it'll then ask the client to select a program to then be able to see the services offered in that country. So you can see here. And each program can define how they want to present their program name. For instance, some programs have a name that clients aren't familiar with, and so you can customize what is presented here. For instance, there could be one program in this country that offers reproductive health services for women, and another program could be offering a totally different type of services, let's say HIV testing for young men. And they can customize how the program is offered here to say HIV testing for men, reproductive health services for women, so it's more clear to the client what they need to select. Or you can simply just have the name of the project itself if clients are aware of that. And when you use tokens, for instance, a token 100 here, it will automatically push the client to your program. They won't need to make a selection. So let's go back here. And also, if there's only one program in your country, then clients don't need to make any selection. It automatically presents the site for the country that they are accessing. And if there's only one program, it'll only present that information. Let's give an example of Malawi. And you can see here they have some customizations to the front end. Let's also show you Liberia. Only one program in Liberia. You can see how they have their information presented here, and this is specifically for Liberia. The next item is what you can already see is the very dramatic change in the front-end design of the website. So we have applied a new visual look, a new logo for QuickRes, matching icons throughout the site, and some changes to the user experience and some functions that streamline the process for clients to use the site. So some examples of some of these changes are previously there was one start button on the home page, and then it led to these actions clients could take. Let's go to test QuickRes because we have more options here. So in the redesign, we removed the start button and we simplified it by just presenting the three main actions clients can take right on the home page. Two of these actions will involve data collection from the client and storage of that information on QuickRes. That includes booking services and the self-assessment. So now the client consent process is as follows. On the home page, there is a note that says, by selecting start, it should say by using QuickRes, you understand the terms of use policy on the About Us page. And also, when a client gets to the final step in the process to book a service or the final question on the self-assessment, there's an active consent tick mark and a short statement just like this that they will be consenting to before their data is actually stored on QuickRes. So that's one thing that has changed on the front-end redesign. Another thing that's changed is we did add a page here that says services. This simply links clients to the book services page. It's just another way to know what services are available on the system. You can hit book services or the client can hit services and they get there. When you go to book services, you can find the full list of services available by that program, and you can see some information about each service that is available in a pop-up that I'll explain a bit more later. Another item about the redesign is that all of the content is framed within this white border. And let's give an example of the booking process. You continue with selecting a modality for how you want to receive the service. You can select a location, you can list multiple locations, and then you select a clinic. Most of these steps are generally the same as was before. And you can select a date and time. This is the same content, just presented in a little bit more streamlined fashion. And you also have this very helpful 5-step process that guides the client through each of the steps. So they can see, all right, I'm at step 4 of 5 steps. And it shows here at the top, the last selection was of the provider and it has the name of the provider. If the client wants to go back, they can go back to make another selection. And this final appointment confirmation page has been streamlined and reduced in terms of content. They have the appointment confirmation details, much more condensed version of that information here. Once they get here, they can select to add additional services. They'll be able to select any services here that are offered by that selected clinic and that are offered by that same modality. So let's also do STI testing, okay? Same information is collected for the client here, and they can edit their communication preferences. The COVID screening can be turned off for a particular country, and some more information can be collected here. You see here the consent at the very end before they submit. All right, so that's the general redesign. Programs can customize several aspects. We go back to the home page. Programs can customize several aspects about this home page for their own program. For instance, this hand graphic can be replaced. We have 3 versions with 3 different skin tones. It can be replaced by another one of those versions, or you can create your own custom graphic. This text here can be modified per country as well, maybe to highlight a particular partner, a particular campaign, or type of services offered in this, by this program. Additionally, these 2 options here, the chat option and the self-assessment option, can be turned off. And programs can add up to 4 local partner logos on the bottom here. Typically, the logos on the bottom are meant to represent which program is administering or managing QuickRes in this country. All right, and so the third major upgrade is a HIV self-test reporting function. So how this works, let me go on the back end and show you that when a client, I'll go to test QuickRes. Just give me 1 minute. Okay, this is the test QuickRes country, and let's give an example that this reservation here on December 15th is for HIV self-testing. Let's go ahead and modify this to be on today's date so that we can report the client is arrived and so we can begin editing. Let's also say it's for self-testing. Let's save the changes. And let's find that appointment. Here we have it. So here, when clients are given a self-test kit, first you mark them as arrived, and let's say they're picking up the self-test kit from the clinic. The next step is to say self-test unassisted. It was just given to the client and the result is unreported. Save. What happens at this stage, the new function is you can turn on an HIV self-test self-reporting portal for clients. What this will do is when clients are given a self-test kit and there's no result reported, it'll say unreported, for 48 hours after it was distributed, they'll be sent an SMS message with a link to come back to QuickRes to report their result. So I'll show you in the front end what that looks like. They would go to quickres.org, self-report. So when they are sent a link to enter their self-report, to self-report their test results, they will have a link that automatically knows the country and the program, so they won't need to make a selection here. And it'll embed their reservation number in the link so that the client does not need to find the reservation. Another option is programs can paste a QR code or a link on the test kit and say go to quickres.org/self-report, and then they would need to select their country, their program, and they would need to enter either a kit number or a reservation number. So for me, I'm going to enter my reservation number. Let's see if this works. So this is my record. This is the full reservation number. This number is shown in the SMS message sent to clients about their appointment. Let's try that again. It's using the last several digits of the reservation number. 3, 12, and 9. Let's see if this works. Okay, great. So by entering the last 6 digits of the reservation number, which is the number that's shared with clients, it did find my kit. It did find my appointment. So I can now enter my result as not reactive, reactive, or invalid. Let's give an example of saying reactive. Great. So it does provide a short message. Thank you for self-reporting your result in QuickRes. We recommend you access standard HIV testing to confirm your self-test result, book your appointment, or contact us here. Just links them back to booking. And what this does on the back end, let me refresh this page. This is my record, and now it turns from red, unreported, to green, reported. And you can see here that it automatically updated the record from unreported to reactive, and it has a note. This entry was entered on the self-reporting portal. And case managers or clinic workers can use this to say, okay, I now need to do HIV testing with this client, or book a future appointment with this client, etc. So that is the new self-reporting portal. You can turn that function on or off on the program settings, and you can specify if you want to require that a kit number be entered here so that the client would easily be able to enter the kit number on the first step of finding their record. The other option is to simply have the system send the SMS to the client when it's still unreported with a link, and that link will directly skip them to report your result because the link will have embedded the reservation code. It will have already connected them to their record, and they can skip that step. Those are the three major upgrades, big functions, big changes. I'm going to get into some smaller changes now. So the next few changes or upgrades are around tokens. So the first is that tokens, which are used to link clients to access QuickRes. Let's give an example. That's QuickRes, program A. Here's a token. Here's for this test country, this is like the default token. And you can add numbers, like this number could be for a specific outreach worker, this number could be for a specific case manager or online ad. We have a new function that allows those token numbers to instead use a text alias. And what that means is that there can be an easy way to advertise to clients to access your program. Or for an outreach worker to say, book at quickres.org/Ben. And when we program my token as Ben, the outreach worker, to use an alias of Ben, it'll essentially allow you to send that link to clients, have them book. When they click on the link, it'll redirect them to the full link with the code so that the results are still tracked to you. But it makes it easier to be able to advertise to clients that they can more easily remember quickres.org/Ben rather than 285367. Could be a long number. So I'll give you an example on the back end of how to apply these aliases. You go to your tokens, you look at an existing token. Let's give an example of this Facebook campaign. Let's say for this Facebook campaign, we want to have a token that is specific to this campaign. So let's give an example of Free to Be You. So this is the name of the campaign. It makes it very simple that when you make promotions for that campaign, they can all use this link. They'll all get redirected to the original token number. It just makes it easier for promotions. This is particularly useful for online outreach workers. They want to have their name as an alias, a very short name, or it could be very useful for offline promotions when you have printed advertisements and clients can't easily just click a link. They need to remember something. So quickres.org/World AIDS Day, something like that. Another thing to note is that when you create an alias, the alias is, once you create it, it is taken for all countries globally, all projects globally. So avoid using aliases that could be easily used by other countries. For instance, John. John's a pretty common name. If you use John for one of your outreach workers in Malawi, there's likely to be another outreach worker with the name John. So you might need to say something more specific so you don't take someone else's name or cause any confusion. There's another new function for helping to categorize results of tokens. So previously, we used the token purpose field to be able to categorize tokens by specific categories. And those categories are what you can use to segment and filter results on the data visualizations. So for example, here, this Facebook campaign we have a standard set of tokens that are applied as tags. They're now called tags. So these standard ones, which you can select from a drop-down, are defined on your program settings. We at headquarters have defined 11 tags that should be applied across your program. 11 possible tags. They are organic, inorganic, offline, test. Those are the level 1 token categories. And then you have default, backend, network page, network outreach worker, network referral, network EPOA, influencer, online ads. So those are 11 different tags, and I'll show you them here in the dropdown. How you'll be using those is 4 of them have a 1 in front of them. You can see 3 here, but actually there's 1 down here, test. For each of your tokens, you'll apply only 1 tag from the level 1 category. So either your token is used as an organic promotion, which means it's not paid, an inorganic promotion, which means it is paid, an offline promotion. So the organic and inorganic are both online, and then there's offline. Those are the 3 main categories of tokens. And then you also have the option to say it's a test token, which means you're using it only for testing purposes. There's no real data captured there. Those are your 4 level 1 categories. And then once you select a level 1, you can select a level 2. So you have the default. The default is when people arrive on your site without a token. So that's your source token. And then you have the backend. Backend is used for the token 860. When you make a reservation on the backend, it always gets applied to that tag. You have network page. This would be when you have a Facebook page or social media page and you want to have a link on the page to bring people to QuickRes. You would apply that one. If you have a particular outreach worker and they have their own token, you'd use this one. There are the referral tags. So this is when a client is referred, when a client refers another client using QuickRes's client referral tool, you'll apply this network referral tag. EPOA is if you're doing a social or sexual network outreach approach, peer mobilization approach, or we call it EPOA. Social media influencer promotions, online ads. So you can see those categories. Essentially, you typically select 1 of the level 1s and then 1 of the level 2 to define what it is. Once you do that, you then have custom tags. So this would be any additional terms you want to categorize this. So for instance, this is organic and online ads. That usually wouldn't be the case because if you do online ads, you usually have to pay for it. So let's go ahead and unapply those and apply it again as inorganic and online ads. So under custom tags, you will not repeat what you have under the standard tags above. You'll just give any more granular categorization you want. So let's just say Facebook ads, and we could, let's see, you see how it's been added. So I just press enter and you see the tags here. You got the level 1, level 2, and then you have your custom tag there. So that's how you can use those to categorize your results. For instance, under data, results, cascade, you're able to filter by token, and then you enter in organic, and you get to see all your results across all the tokens that are using organic. All right, another function that can be applied on a token, give an example, an outreach worker. Let's say an outreach worker has their token, their name is Ben. So you put Ben outreach worker under the title. You'd apply your tags, organic, outreach worker, And this is the new function. You can make it so that any client who arrives on your site with this token or this link is going to have a specific clinic that is shown to them to book at. So you can say, here, token will cause front end to prioritize bookings at, and you can select a clinic in that, offered by that program. So this is useful if your outreach workers are working at a particular drop-in center or clinic, and they want to make it easier for clients to know what services to book. They want them to book only at their clinic. So then when you create these links, when you create these tokens, you can have them programmed to select a certain clinic. When clients do click on these links and they have a specific clinic prioritized, there is an option at the top of QuickRes. It'll be shown here next to country. There'll be a little clinic icon. If they select that, they have the option to cancel that prioritization and view all clinics in the program. So even though they did access it through a token that prioritizes one clinic, they can cancel that view to go back and view all services. There's a couple new program settings and functions that I'll review now. One is on the program settings. And this is there is a function currently applied on QuickRes where, as you see on the reservations view, a clinic worker can be assigned to see a specific client's appointment. And also the assigned outreach worker and case manager can also see that same client's appointment. And particularly for the case manager, there are some sensitive health information that could be recorded on that appointment. There's a current function that says if the clinic user is the first one to edit and report delivery of one of those more sensitive health services like HIV testing result or provision of ART or viral load, it will lock in the clinic user to continue seeing and editing, being able to see and edit that health button. And it will lock out any other user type, such as the assigned outreach worker and case manager. The assigned outreach worker and case manager in that case can still see the appointment. They just can't see the health service reported by the clinic. And the purpose of that is to maintain client confidentiality and to prevent, basically to ensure that whoever supported the client first with the provision of health services is the one that continues to see that information. So we have a new function to turn off that setting. So with that, if you turn it off, let me just show you what that setting is. Okay, this is the setting, second user lockout. If you turn it off, it means that if the outreach worker, case manager, and clinic worker all have access to a single client's appointment, that each of them will be able to view what the other user had reported for service delivery. And that would be important if in your setting, clinic users report delivery health services and the case managers require access to that information to be able to follow up with the client. So then you would turn it off in that setting, in that context. Another setting that is now applied on QuickRes is you can customize labels for certain bits of information on the site. So I'll give you an example. Let's go here. So at the bottom of the settings, you can apply alternate text labels for case manager, outreach worker, code, and name or nickname. So let's give an example. Case manager. In South Africa, the role of a case manager, they actually call themselves treatment navigator. So then you would type in that. So you have a particular label on the front end. Clients typically don't see this label on the front end, except on the client feedback form where they select if they want their assigned case manager to see their feedback on the services or not. And it'll say when we apply these changes, it won't say case manager anymore. It'll say treatment navigator. And on the back end, it's always good to use a very short label, like I just say TN, because the program understands what TN means. And what that'll do is on each of the appointment records, instead of saying case manager or manager that appointment is assigned to, it'll just say TN. And on the reservations view, it won't say case manager view, it'll say TN view. The same for outreach worker. Maybe you use a different terminology like community-based supporter. And so in the back end, you could change it to be CBS because that's what the program calls it. The code is the additional tracking code that you want to add to a client's record, like their unique identifier code or patient file number. So if you know how that code is labeled in the country, you can apply it here. It could be, you'd say unique identifier code, and then the back end, you keep it really short, UIC. Or you could say file number, something super short. The name or nickname is actually for the client's name. So right now, QuickRes says on the appointment confirmation page, the client to put in their name or nickname. If you know in your country that you really don't want people putting their real name, you could just say nickname. And then clients know to put a nickname, back-end nickname. Or if it's not that sensitive, just say name. If in a certain program they, for some reason, do require full name, you could change it to say full name so that it gives a little more specificity about what the client should be entering there. And yeah. The third setting here is you can turn off entirely the outreach worker functions. And what that'll do is it'll hide the option to assign new appointments to an outreach worker, and it'll remove let me scroll to the top, it'll remove this outreach worker reservations view from the platform entirely in your country. Another setting that has been added, I'll show it to you. Okay. Here. Okay. Another setting that's been added is that you can turn this on, and what this will do is it'll permanently delete any of the personally identifiable information from records that are over 5 years old. So when you turn it on, once a week, QuickRes will do a scan of all the records in your country. It'll identify any of those that are over 5 years. Over 5 years have passed since it was created, and for all those it does identify as being over 5 years old, that the record is over 5 years old, it will basically remove the phone number, remove other contact information, remove the client name, and replace it with a short thing that says PII deleted. So you'll be able to see over time in your database when the PII is being deleted. For many countries, they do require that personally identifiable information gets stripped or removed from the data, particularly when that information is no longer required for the intended purpose of the data collection. So we thought after 5 years, mostly that information would not be required. This data stripping and removing of the PII is not done for records that are over 5 years old if they're on a cohort, like an ART cohort, and their case is still open. If their case is closed and they're over 5 years old, it will remove the PII. But if the case is still open, because someone could be followed on ART for more than 5 years, it won't strip that information because it's still being used. The next item is that programs can now specify the email addresses that QuickRes should send when there's a new complaint reported on the client complaint tool. So let's give an example here. QuickRes has a client feedback tool. Clients can be sent this SMS at the end of their appointment with a link to go back and fill that form. When they fill that form, there is an option to submit a complaint beyond just normal feedback. So for countries that have this turned on, they would enter the email addresses. You can enter multiple email addresses separated by a semicolon, and each of those email addresses will be sent an email by QuickRes immediately, as soon as the complaint is submitted by the client. And that email will include the details of the complaint as was entered by the client, and it'll be sent in the email to these, whose ever email addresses are included here. So typically you would include the going online backstop, who's ever supporting the program, and the person in country who's responsible to review and respond to client complaints. Could be up to 3 or 4 emails or even more. And it also has instructions in the email for that person that sees that complaint to go back to QuickRes, find the appointment, go to the feedback button, and report that they've resolved the complaint. Another quick function on the edit program page, we just added these links at the top. So you're quickly able to see what are all the categories of settings and quickly say, oh, I want to go to the case manager settings. Boom, you're there. And so it's just adding those little simple links. Another item that was added to the program settings is you can hide certain items on the left-hand navigation on the back end. So I'm going to scroll up and show you. You can see here all these left-hand navigation items. For a particular program, they may not be doing ART case management, and so you can easily hide the ART cohort data visualization. You can also hide the case manager view or the outreach worker view if they're not using those functions or don't have those users. So we'll go back down to those settings. Here they all are. Here's all the possible left-hand navigation items. And what this does is if you have user accounts that are assigned to only one program, you can say, in this program, my users are not going to need to see the postnatal care and immunization data visualizations. They also don't need to see SMS blast function or any of these translations items. And you can just untick it, save it, and then those program users will not see those options, just to simplify their use of QuickRes. Another setting here is to hide the ART and PrEP quarterly retention buttons on the case manager view. So let's see where that is. Disable. Okay, I'm just going to find that. Okay. Not easy to find. Let's go to settings, case manager. Okay, here. Report and track historical ART and PrEP retention. So this is a function that should by default be off. Most programs are not using this. And if you turn it on, it's going to have a column in the case manager reservations view that allows them to report at the end of each quarter what is the status of their clients in ART or PrEP. Again, I don't know any programs using that function. We should keep it off. And when it's off, it'll do 2 things. One, it will hide the data collected under those buttons from the data export, so that you have a smaller data export, more manageable data export with fewer columns. And it'll also hide those options on the case manager reservations view. Case manager, I'll go there just to show you quickly. I turned it off so they don't even show up. But previously, before refill status, there was 2 buttons on every record to report this quarterly retention, and by hiding it or turning that function off, it makes this view more manageable and removes a function that most programs don't use. So I'd recommend turning that off. Next set of functions are for data visualization. We've made some changes there. One is we have a new data visualization for the ART cohort. Let me go ahead and give an example from South Africa. In order to use this data visualization, so this data visualization is going to show you the status of all the clients added to the ART cohort in South Africa. However, it allows you to compare your cohort across 7 different options, 7 different filters. And so you do need to select a filter type. So let's give an example. We want to filter by clinic. So we're going to show all the clients added to the ART cohort at 7 different clinics. So we need to find our 7 different clinics in our country. I won't select 7. I'll just select a couple that I know have data on them. All right, I'm just going to do 5. So this is going to show me everyone added to the ART cohort at the Davidton main clinic, the Isangweni clinic, the Germiston clinic, the Goba clinic, and Nokwethel clinic. And what these show is basically, I didn't put a start date or end date. So since the beginning of the program, how many clients do they enroll in ART at Davidton main? Okay. And this is unique clients. And then it segments this by cases that were enrolled in ART that are still open. And so you have the open cases are red. And you can see here this legend below. Solid red are the clients that have ART stock, meaning that their refill status is not negative. They have ART stock and their case is open. That's good. That they're doing. Those are the clients that are doing well. Above are the clients who have an open record on the cohort and they do not have ART stock currently. So these are people that have some interruption in treatment, at least as recorded on QuickRes. And then on top is you have the closed cases. So you have closed cases in solid blue, and they were closed because the client was virally suppressed. So that's an example in South Africa. They can close a case when a client is virally suppressed because they don't follow clients after viral suppression. Unless they interrupt again, then they come back. So that solid blue is actually a good thing for them to close a case because the client is virally suppressed. Above, in the hashed blue, is interrupted in treatment. This is clients who are interrupted in treatment from 0 to 90 days, their case is still open. Once it hits 90 days interrupted in treatment, the QuickRes will close the case and it'll show here this number that are closed. And then you have above, very hard to see, is in gray the number of cases that have been closed because they were transferred out, and in black is cases closed because the client died. And you can see the actual values down here. Like on the chart, it's hard to know the actual values. All it's going to show you is the total open cases, the total closed cases, but not the individual segments. But if you look below, you have the actual amount per segment. And you also have 2 percentages per item you're comparing, like here it's the clinics. So the blue percentage is showing you the percent of all closed cases that are closed because the client was virally suppressed. So in South Africa, you would want all or most of your clients that when they're closed for viral suppression as opposed to being closed because they died or because they're interrupted in treatment. So only 8% of the closed cases in Davidton, Maine are closed for viral suppression. And so you can see the higher the blue percentage, the better they're doing at closing the cases or resolving those cases appropriately. The other percentage is the red one. It's a little hard to read. The red one is the percent of open cases that have stock compared to those that don't have stock. And so for all of your open cases, it's ideal to have 100% of your open cases having ART. So you, again, can compare the red line to see which facilities, clients who they enrolled at ART currently have stock. And again, this is an example. with real data from South Africa. However, it's not necessarily reflective of what the clients received. It's reflective of what the treatment navigators reported in Aura or in QuickRes. For instance, if the treatment navigator did not manually close a record and say virally suppressed, they forgot to do that, then eventually that record shows up as interrupted. So this is just showing showing the results of how the case managers are reporting this information and may not perfectly reflect service delivery to clients, but this is just an example to know how to read this. You can also filter by case manager name. So you can go ahead and select the case managers themselves, up to 7, and see how they're doing. On each of the data visualizations, we've added 2 new populations. If you want to filter your results by AGYW or migrants, all of the data visualizations have those 2 new options added. So those essentially were not available under the population filter, but we just added those 2. We also have several improvements to some of the existing data visualizations. I'll try to give you an example. Let's go to all programs. Let's go to Namibia. So one of the improvements that were made on the Cascade data visualization is we've added HIV self-test results. Before, it just showed you HIV test results. So we've added self-test results, and we have 2 markers that show the case finding. 1 case finding for traditional HIV testing and 1 case finding for HIV self-testing. And it looks like we've got an error page here. Let me go ahead and just refresh this and select a country that we can see data for. Let me see if I can do Philippines. So we'll just give it a moment to load the cascade for Philippines. I do hope this will work. Another important change is we've done an overhaul on the timeline data visualization. So just take one step back. You can see here the change that was made. So you can see here HIV self-test positive in very light yellow, 7. HIV test positive in a slightly different shade of yellow. HIV self-test negative, HIV test negative. And you can see the reactivity rate in red for normal HIV testing, and you have for self-testing in blue. So that shows you how you can see those results together. Let's show you the timeline data visualization, which has changed significantly. The timeline data visualization is going to show you 2 stacked bars side by side. Let's show by month. And the first bar, which is blue and gray and black, is total number of appointments. So this, let's give an example. April 2023, 1,009 total appointments booked to occur in April 2023. Among those, it will segment by, in blue, the number that arrived. In black, the number that canceled or were reported as canceled appointments. In gray is, in like a darker gray, is missed appointments. And as you can see here, we're in the month of December, and it's going to show future appointments. So we have here 100 appointments that are booked in the Philippines to occur between now and the end of December. And then you have some that are missed and attended. So the overall stack is going to show you the overall number of appointments, and then it's going to segment by their status. And then programs have the option to customize what they want their second bar in the cascade to show for that same month. So let's say we want to do, you always have appointment, and then you can apply a second one. So let's look at the HIV test results. So now what you're viewing is all appointments in the country for any kind of service. And secondly, you're looking at the test results. The line, the blue line, is only going to show the appointment attendance rate. It's not showing case finding. So you do have reference here to tests positive, test negative. You have here for each month, you have the totals, you have pending results, negative, and positive. Another helpful one is added to cohort. Let me show how this looks. Philippines is not really using the cohort function as well, so let's go to South Africa. And this is quite useful. There are 5 different types of cohorts clients can be added to on QuickRes, and in South Africa they only use the ART cohort. So what this is showing is total number of appointments and arrival and missed appointments in the blue and black for each month, and then how many clients in that month were newly added to the ART cohort. So as you can see, when they started rolling out, everyone who was coming in was being enrolled to the cohort, or almost everyone. And then in the following months, you have pretty steady number of clients being enrolled in ART, but an increasing number of appointments. And that's because enrollments are unique individuals, first time in getting on ART, and then the additional appointments are for the previous people who enrolled in previous periods are getting their refills in subsequent months. All right, I'm just going to go over this function. Yeah, and another thing to mention is that we simplified the labeling of a lot of the graphs and charts. So you see here, you just have the total number for the total stack, right? And if this stack here had some prep enrollments, it would show this number would be for prep and ART enrollments. Right now it's just ART. And if you want to know the value of the individual stacks, for instance, if you want to know the number of missed versus attended, you go down here. So there are these tables that show you the actual values for each part of the stack. We added a slight new function. There's a traffic log on QuickRes. If you go to export data and you select here, you're going to be able to download a file in Excel that has a log of all the visitors to your site, to your program. We just added something to that tracking that would capture what was the client's first action on the site. Did they click book services? Did they click start chat? Did they click self-assessment? Did they click about? It'll track which of those were the first action they took. And if that column's blank, it means the client just looked at the site and then left and didn't take any action. So it just allows you to have a bit more tracking about the bounce rate on the traffic log. There's been a couple changes. Now we're going to get into the reservations view. A couple changes to the reservations view. Let's go ahead and go back to our test QuickRes country. And let's go to the case manager view. Okay, so one of the main changes is that the phone number field is now called client identifiers, and it has a phone number that can be revealed, and they have a little phone emoji next to it. And then you have the code field. The code used to be its own column. We removed it, we just added it here. So you enter that code for the client there. Additionally, there had previously been a column for time of appointment. And we removed that and we placed the time here right under the date. And we also removed the day of the week from the date. And we added the year. So now it's more complete. It's all the time information for the appointment is in one place right here under the date column. And previously on the reservations view, there was a pencil button. The pencil button allowed you to edit or reschedule the appointment. We removed the pencil button and you can now just click the client name, and that is where you can edit and reschedule an appointment. We also made a correction to one of these filters here. So here's a task filter. What this does is it is going to filter the appointments that are on your view by important tasks you need to complete. So I'll give an example here, book ART refills. This will essentially filter to view records added to the ART cohort that do not have a future appointment for ART refill. So you see all these here, these are actually all closed records. This is the test site, but if these were all open, you would see that all these clients have negative refill status. They don't have a future appointment. So for each of these clients, it makes sense to call them and to book their next ART refill. So we just made a correction to that filter so that it ensures it's only going to include records that have a low refill status and no future ART refill under their upcoming, or even if they do have a future ART refill and the refill status is negative, it still will show up in that list. So you can get them in sooner to get their ART. A couple new services and changes to services on QuickRes. One is I showed you earlier. We've added a function that allows clients to learn a little bit more about the services you're offering. So each service, you can click this information button and it presents a short description of what is this service. And on each program can actually specify this text. I'll show you here. So on your program settings, you can go to services and you have it here, service descriptions. You can enter your service description for self-testing in your primary language, and then you can enter, if you have a secondary language, you can add the secondary language here. You click save, and then that will be presented in these pop-ups for clients to learn more. Okay, QuickRes continues to allow programs to have up to 5 custom services, and here they are. There's a lot more information per custom service and settings that you can apply now. For instance, you can have your custom service be presented in both of your languages on the front end. You can translate here. You can also add that short descriptive text that would get presented on the front end, the same way it is for these standard services, but you have the option here. You can add a custom service icon that can be presented. For instance, these icons, you can make a new one for your custom service. You have this option to edit the backend button label. So previously, when you added a custom service and a client booked for that service, their resulting appointment on the backend would say other. And then you'd click other, and then you'd see the option to report on this. We've changed that so that now if a client books for this custom service, the resulting appointment will not have an other button. It will have a button that says, for this one, hormone. It'll have that option presented. And then you can just select that option to say you gave that service. There is one way to override how the reporting works, and here's an example. So let's say we want to add a front-end service of PSS consult. So this is a consult-based service. I will just say PSS for the backend label. And because it is a consult, it is preferred that actually you don't have it open its own new service button. You can have it trigger an existing consult button. So what this will allow you to do is all your consult-based services that are custom services, you can have them instead of presenting a new button, it'll just present the consult button. And when clients book, let me give an example. When clients book for that service, it won't say PSS consult on the back end. It'll just say consult. I'm going to unselect all these. So it'll just say consult. You say consulted, and then that custom service you added would get added to this list. So it would say PSS. So you could say type of consult, you'd say PSS and save. And this simplifies when you want to do reporting and say the total number of consults, it's going to keep all that information on consults in one column in the data export, the consult column. So there's that setting as well. There are two new standard services added to QuickRes, and here they are: condoms and mental health. So these are services that, on the edit clinic page, I'll give you an example. All the services that they can offer are here, and condoms and mental health are always included. Now across all clinics on QuickRes, they can say they offer them as an in-person pickup, or delivery, or mental health can be done as virtual. They have their own icons, as you can see here, their own service icons. And on the back end, they have their own reporting interface to report that the services were delivered. So let's give an example. Let's show you how both these work. So if this client booked for mental health, I can say that they were consulted. The provider has the option to report results of any standardized assessments used with the clients. These are standard mental health assessments. There's the Beck Anxiety, Beck Depression, the PHQ-9. If you say that you did an assessment, you have to enter a score. And you can say other, and you can get some notes about what you did. Or all these things are actually optional. They're not required to be reported. You could just say that the consult was done, and then you save. For condoms, you can report the number of male condoms provided, number of female condoms provided, and indicate if the client collected those from your site or they were given to the client, and you can save. A very slight change on the final booking page. Not consequential, I'll just show you here, is when you enter a phone number, when you enter a phone number, it has a small message here that it is confirming your phone number in an international format. It's automatically adding the country code based on the country that you're accessing QuickRes from, and it adds your phone number. What's important about this is in many countries, clients have a leading zero. That when they have a leading zero, QuickRes needs to, what's helpful for the clients to know, to add the leading zero, and that QuickRes is understanding that. They remove the leading zero when they add the country code. Anyway, this is just to sort of confirm the final phone number format that the client is entering. We've added on the back end a Portuguese language option. We also added a setting on your program settings that allow you to specify for all of your users in your program what should be their default back-end language. So here, back-end language to choose English. English is the default if nothing is selected. However, if in your country all of your program users are speaking Portuguese, you would select this. It makes it a lot easier so that every time they log in, they're not having to change the language at the top. It's automatically going to be selected for them. Yeah, so you can change here, but at least you have the ability to default it for your users in your country. We made another change to ensure that the local time zone is applied for all relevant functions. And this was important because some aspects of QuickRes was using Thailand time. So for instance, there's a function that says an appointment that is scheduled for tomorrow cannot be reported as arrived today. And if QuickRes understands that if time is based in Thailand, that can affect when users in other countries and other time zones can begin reporting on appointments for today. And there's some other functions as well. Essentially, this is more of an internal thing, but should streamline how how users interact with the site based on time and other reporting aspects in the site to be sure that that for each program the time is understood as a local time zone. And the last two items are some security improvements to the site, including applying security headers, which is a website that scans the site for security issues, and we've addressed those, and also installed Cloudflare on the site, which is a service that supports security as well. And one last thing that I will add is that we've added a function that allows programs to, instead of sending reminders to clients by SMS only, you can offer the option for clients to opt into WhatsApp messages or messages sent by Viber. So let's give an example. I'll show you what this looks like. SMS settings here. So messaging apps to offer notifications by WhatsApp. When you select WhatsApp, you'll need to follow several steps to actually set this up. You need to create a WhatsApp for Business account. You might need to pay for some sort of credits, and when in that account, you're able to get this API token and URL that you can input in here. And then what this will do on the front end is that clients, when they book their appointment, they're going to be able to say, I want to receive messages by SMS or WhatsApp or Viber. And for WhatsApp and Viber, it'll take clients through a process of essentially receiving a welcome message on their WhatsApp and confirming it before WhatsApp will approve QuickRes to be sending reminders through that mechanism. It's a little bit more intensive of a process to set up than just the SMS. When you have this turned on, it does allow clients on the front end, when they're booking, they put in their phone number. The phone number field will stay the same, and it is meant for receiving voice calls and receiving SMS messages. But then if they select WhatsApp for their reminders, the system will not send reminders via SMS. It'll send them by the WhatsApp method. And it'll ask for their WhatsApp phone number, which might be different than their SMS phone number. And for Viber, it asks for their username, I think, to do that. That's another new function, and it's something that if you're interested to use, do reach out to the Going Online team so we can help you get that set up. And that is a summary of QuickRes version 10. We'll be sharing some guidance, written guidance on this. And if you have any questions, please do reach out. You can reach out to us at my email or the general one, goingonline@fhi360.org. Thank you.